Help me translate this. My illegitimate half-sister and I died together in a car accident. And then we were reborn together. She thought I was the one who caused her death and was extremely resentful. Fighting over the family estate is one thing. But how could you be so unscrupulous as to take a life? I am Qin Yi, the eldest daughter of the Qin family, and today I just joined the Reborn Club. In my past life, not long after my mother passed away, my father brought home an illegitimate daughter and implicitly made it clear to me that half of the family's assets would be split with her. The fact that an illegitimate daughter had inheritance rights pissed me off immensely. And Qin Shuang, for her part, was jealous that I'd lived a life of luxury since childhood. After all, we had the same father, yet our lives were worlds apart, so she was also extremely annoyed with me. So, the two of us, determined to fight tooth and nail for the inheritance. We fought from home to the company. From the company back home, the battles were so fierce. You could say we left a path of destruction everywhere we went. Those company shareholders were annoyed just seeing us, because our open and covert struggles had cost the company several major deals. The shareholders even directly proposed kicking both of us out of the company. Yet we were still locked in combat, refusing to let go of each other. Thinking back now, we were truly brainless in our past lives. If either of us had been just a bit smarter, we wouldn't have ended up as pawns, both of us meeting our end in the underworld. That's right, neither of us gained any advantage in this struggle. Instead, we ended up benefiting the precious, hidden illegitimate son my father had stashed away. Just before the car accident, I had just uncovered the truth of this. I couldn't wait to call Qin Shuang and ask to meet her. But the moment I saw her, just as I was about to park and go find her, I realized my brakes had failed. The car, with me in it, plowed straight towards her, and we both perished together. If anyone tried to claim our car accident was an accident, even the author probably wouldn't believe it. We truly never expected that after all our fierce fighting, we'd end up with nothing, only to be taken out by the schemer behind the scenes. When I woke up, I was sitting in my living room. And sitting before me were my scumbag father and Qin Shuang. My dad was in the middle of amiably introducing Qin Shuang's identity. Zhao, Yi, you need to take good care of your sister. From now on, you two are real sisters, and you must learn to share blessings. At that moment, I realized it. I had been reborn. Reborn to 3 years ago, the very moment when Qin Shuang was first brought home by that scumbag dad. Ignoring my scumbag father's garbage words, I fixed both eyes on Qin Shuang. She was still looking completely bewildered. Knowing her as I did, she must have been reborn too. Yi, did you hear what Dad said? After rambling for a while and getting no response from me, my scumbag dad grew a bit displeased. I quickly played along and replied, I got it, Dad. I really like my sister. I'm planning to give her a gift. It's in my room. With that, I grabbed the still dazed Qin Shuang and dragged her towards my room. I was afraid if I was any later, her silly expression might arouse suspicion. The moment we stepped into my room, Qin Shuang finally snapped out of it, gripping my hand tightly. Qin Yi, have we been reborn? I rolled my eyes at her without hesitation. I was starting to think that after being reborn, her IQ had also been reset. Wasn't such an obvious fact beyond needing a question mark. Luckily, she hadn't completely lost her mind. At least she knew not to start yelling and risk alerting our scumbag dad. 30 seconds later, Qin Shuang had accepted the fact of our rebirth and was now staring at me with a face full of grievance. Qin Yi, fighting over the family estate is one thing, but how could you be so unscrupulous as to take a life? Have you ever seen anyone commit murder for money and end up losing their own life in the process? Couldn't help it. I rolled my eyes at her again. If she didn't get back to normal soon, I'd have to keep these eyes permanently fixed skyward. But she was, after all, the woman who could go toe-to-toe with me, so her IQ quickly came back online. She rapidly analyzed the situation. Killing both of us at the same time? That's practically wiping out the Qin lineage. Was it some enemy of the Qin family? I shook my head coldly, preparing to tell her the ugliest, most brutal truth. It was Qin Jin. What? Dad? How is that possible? Would anyone make themselves childless? Disbelief was written all over her face. I let out a cold laugh. What if we're not his only children? Qin Shuang stared at me in shock. 3 seconds later, her expression also turned icy. He has another illegitimate son out there. Qin Shuang had sparred with me for 3 years. She was no fool. With just a couple of hints from me, she understood immediately, quickly piecing together everything from our past lives. So, while we were fighting out front, he and his illegitimate son were playing the schemer from behind. I nodded, adding some detail for her. That's right. We made a bad name for ourselves and the company, paving a smooth path for his son to take over. And then, afraid we might fight back, he simply decided to finish us off, once and for all. After hearing this, Qin Shuang was livid, mostly furious at being used as a pawn by our scumbag dad, and even more so at herself for being so clueless. How did I know? Because I was angry about the same thing. I'd prided myself on being clever, the only true heir to the Qin family, only to realize I'd been set up long ago and played for a fool. How could I not be angry? Qin Shuang took a few minutes to calm down, finally suppressing the urge to storm out and confront our scumbag dad directly. Before she spoke to me. How did you find out he had an illegitimate son? I sponsored a scholarship at a school. I went to the awards ceremony and saw a boy there who looked exactly like our scumbag dad. On the day of the car accident, I just gotten the investigation results back. It was confirmed. He's Dad's illegitimate son. The moment I'd seen Qin Yi at that school, something felt deeply off. It was just a gut feeling, but I'd hired a private investigator to look into it right away. The results were shocking. I thought my dad only had one illegitimate child. Qin Shuang. I never imagined he had such a big, hidden illegitimate son out there too. Once I knew the truth, combined with all the things my scumbag dad usually said, it instantly clicked. He'd been deliberately sowing discord between me and Qin Shuang. While we fought ourselves to death, his son could just sit back and reap the rewards. So that day you called me, saying you needed to talk. You were going to tell me about this. And you never expected the car's brakes to have been tampered with. The car sped towards me, and we both ended up meeting our maker. Qin Shuang curled her lips into a cold smile. Her eyes were now filled with nothing but hatred. Think about it, who wouldn't hate being killed by their own father? Just how much did he have to love that son? To go so far as to scheme against his own daughters? To pave the way for his son? He didn't even hesitate to have his daughters killed. What are you planning to do about this? Qin Shuang looked up at me. I raised an eyebrow, a smile curving my lips, and said with a light heart, "The Qin family estate is pretty big. Splitting it half with you isn't such a bad idea, you know." She was stunned for a second, then we shared a knowing smile. "Our little brother has been kept out of the family for too long. That just won't do. We need to bring him back home soon. Qin Shuang and I quickly hatched a plan. If our scumbag dad wanted to protect his precious illegitimate son so badly, then we'd be the ones to expose him first. Let him feel a little threatened, make him join the fight. Why should we be the only ones tearing each other apart while he just sits back and enjoys the fruits of our labor? And since our scumbag dad had shielded him so well, he'd probably never faced any real hardship. We'd be happy to give him a taste. Qin Yi, have you thought about the possibility that we might not win against them?" Qin Shuang frowned at me, a hint of worry in her eyes. In our past lives, our scumbag dad played us both for fools. If we hadn't been reborn, we'd never have known the truth. Just based on his cunning alone, our path was destined to be difficult. Who wins and who loses is still up for grabs. If we lose, then I'm just not skilled enough. If I can't win even after 2 lifetimes, then I deserve it. A cold smile played on my lips as I spoke with complete frankness. When I decided to fight our scumbag dad, I thought it through clearly. I'm prepared for any outcome. And now, with Qin Shuang as my ally, plus our advantage of being reborn, our chances of winning are pretty good. You're right. We'll fight to the death. If we lose, the worst that happens is we take another trip to the underworld together. Qin Shuang seemed to let go of her lingering worries, her whole demeanor brightening. On Friday night, I called my scumbag dad and told him to come home early, making sure my tone sounded really off. He asked me what was wrong over the phone, but I wouldn't say. I wanted to keep him in suspense. So when he came home early that evening and saw Qin Shuang and me sitting on the sofa with grim faces, waiting for him, he still had no idea of the storm about to hit. "Zhao Yi, Zhao Shuang, what's wrong with you two? Have you been fighting again?" His first words were accusing us of fighting. Sure enough, he couldn't be happier seeing us at each other's throats, always ready with a little jab. Qin Shuang and I exchanged a quick, knowing glance, sharing a silent understanding of the irony. Then I started my performance. It was time to put our acting skills to the test. Dad, I went to Shiwa University today. I began hesitantly, then paused, as if unsure how to continue. This was all part of the plan Qin Shuang and I had cooked up to keep our scumbag dad guessing, make him sweat a little. Sure enough, as soon as I spoke, my scumbag dad's expression froze for a split second. After all, he was my father. He knew me well enough to realize I wouldn't just mention a random university for no reason. Jiao, Yi, what were you doing at Shiwa University? Is something wrong? Truly a veteran actor, staying so composed even at a moment like this. I hesitated again, looking torn. Dad. Just as I was struggling to speak, Qin Shuang suddenly erupted in anger, shouting, "If she hadn't gone to Shiwa University, I would never have known that Dad has another illegitimate son. Didn't you say you only loved my mother? Then why do you have another illegitimate son? Tell me." Qin Shuang's expression and emotions were perfectly executed, like someone who had just learned a shocking truth, and was exploding with anger. Honestly, I understood. She was genuinely furious. Her mother had been tricked by our scumbag dad into being a mistress. She was already pregnant with Qin Shuang when she found out our scumbag dad was married. With his smooth talk and the pregnancy, Qin Shuang's mother gave in, and from then on, she was resigned to being the other woman. It had affected Qin Shuang's entire life. All of it was that scumbag dad's fault. Under Qin Shuang's angry questioning, the smile on our scumbag dad's face was quickly fading. "Zhao Shuang, what nonsense are you talking?" His tone carried a hint of severity, or rather, he was using severity to mask his panic. The son he'd hidden so carefully had been discovered. Of course he was panicking, but he was stubbornly denying it, even at this point refusing to admit it. Well then, as his good daughter, I naturally had to give him a push. "Dad, I've already looked into it." My expression grim, I pushed the manila envelope on the table towards him. The information inside was quite substantial. It contained all of Qin Yu's detailed information. A photo of our scumbag dad with Qin Yu, a photo with Qin Yu's mother, and even some warm family moments of the three of them together. I had already gathered all this information in my past life, so finding it again in this life was very quick. His expression turned very sour. He didn't even open the envelope, because he knew exactly what was inside. "Qin Yu is your son, the one you had outside, right?" I looked up at him, my tone carrying a mix of coldness, certainty, and a hint of disappointment. Such a layered performance. I thought I might have a future in film. "Jiao, Yi, Dad. He started to explain, but was angrily cut off by Qin Shuang. "I'm telling you right now, I will never allow that illegitimate son to set foot in this house. An illegitimate child thinking he can fight me for anything. No way." Qin Shuang roared fiercely. Her face flushed red. Of course, this was all an act. In this play, she was playing the angry role. Learning that our father had another illegitimate son out there, one of us had to be furious, right? Otherwise, it would be way too suspicious. And attacking his precious son like this would definitely irritate our scumbag dad. Anger would make him slip up. Our scumbag dad shot Qin Shuang a glare, his face now darker than the bottom of a pot. "Qin Shuang, he is your brother. Stop calling him an illegitimate child." Qin Shuang and I exchanged a glance, then quickly looked away. Our scumbag dad had admitted Qin Yu's identity. It was undeniable now. What probably infuriated him most at this moment was his son, hidden so well, had been discovered. His plan to sit back and reap the rewards was completely disrupted. "I will never acknowledge him." Qin Shuang continued to shout, locking horns directly with our scumbag dad. The atmosphere had been built up to a point of tension. It was time for me to step in. "Dad, I am willing to acknowledge Qin Yu as my brother, and I am willing for him to come home." As I spoke, my eyes reddened. The result of me viciously pinching my thigh hurt like hell. And I looked at my scumbag dad with great sorrow. The saddest thing for Mom in her life was not being able to give Dad a son. Qin Yu is our family's only son. He naturally shouldn't have to stay outside. I don't like Qin Shuang, and naturally, I don't like Qin Yu either. But he is a son, the only bloodline of the Qin family. Sniffling and sobbing, I took the backward, son preference mentality to its extreme. Back when Qin Shuang and I were deciding who would play the good cop, she was full of complaints. A character who is so pretentious, affected, and disgusting is all yours. I just want to go head to head. I really had to thank her for that. To force out those tears, my thigh was almost swollen from pinching. She definitely had to compensate me for medical expenses. Our asset split would be 49 to 51. Qin Yi, what exactly are you trying to say? Qin Shuang played along, turning her anger towards me. I shot back at her without hesitation. It means I'm rejecting you because you're not a son. She immediately pretended to be so angry she was speechless. In reality, she was just sitting there comfortably watching the show, even winking at me, telling me to keep up the good work. Why had I never realized how cute she could be in our past life? Ignoring her, I focused on my main task. Dad. I looked at my scumbag dad, waiting for his response. Perhaps my speech about son preference had emboldened him. He was now completely calm. On the surface, he even feigned guilt. Qin Yi is indeed your brother. It's all foolish things I did when I was young. I've let you girls down. This damn scumbag's quotations. Suppressing my nausea, I continued the act. Since he is a blood relative of our Qin family, Dad should bring him home. A proper young master shouldn't have to stay outside. No need. Our scumbag dad refused without even thinking. Was he afraid that if he brought him home, Qin Shuang and I would tear his precious son apart? Give him credit for that, his fear was absolutely right. Why not? He's our brother. He should come home. Why doesn't Dad want to bring him home? Is there something else you're hiding from us? No. Our scumbag dad looked at me calmly. I just think your brother is still in school. This is a big matter. It requires some preparation. The moment those words left his mouth, Qin Shuang exploded off the sofa. What's there to prepare for an illegitimate child? Probably genuinely furious, she took 2 big strides forward, getting right in our scumbag dad's face. That pathetic illegitimate child, no amount of preparation will change who he is. Our scumbag dad's face darkened as he stared at Qin Shuang. Qin Shuang, you don't get to dictate what happens in this household. Afraid Qin Shuang might take the act too far and ruin things, I quickly shot her a warning glance. Qin Shuang glared at me, then silently sat back down on the sofa. This father of ours was something else. In front of me, his legitimate daughter, he needed to prepare. To bring an illegitimate son home. Prepare for what? Prepare for the day he'd abandon his daughters for his son. The truth was, he didn't want to bring Qin Yu home, afraid we'd make things difficult for him. Dad. I suppressed another wave of disgust. That child is, after all, a child of our Qin family. Leaving him outside forever isn't right. I put on a pained expression, like I was enduring hardship for the family's sake. Does Dad think that since I, as the eldest sister, could tolerate Qin Shuang, I can't tolerate Qin Yu? I looked at him, my face full of hurt. Out of the corner of my eye, I glanced at Qin Shuang, hoping she'd add some fuel to the fire. Instead, she rubbed her arms, rolled her eyes in disgust, but still didn't forget the main objective. Qin Yi, you really have a heart as big as the ocean. Oh, so when this illegitimate child comes home, we're supposed to put him on a pedestal? Wow, that one sentence took 18 twists and turns. The sarcasm was palpable. Feigning displeasure, I frowned and glared at her. Qin Shuang, what's that supposed to mean? Once he's home, he's our brother. Putting him on a pedestal, even letting him work at the Qin company. That's only what he deserves. Dad, bring my brother home tomorrow. I'll take him to the company to make an appearance. Just in case some people have ulterior motives. As I said this, my eyes were fixed on my scumbag dad. But he reacted unexpectedly. At the mention of letting his illegitimate son into the company, a distinct glint flashed in his eyes. I couldn't help but curl my lips. If he dared bring him home, I'd certainly have to show my eldest sisterly love and care for him properly. But our scumbag dad had lived long enough. He quickly hid that inadvertent flicker of joy and put on a show of reluctance. Zhao Yi, it's good that you have such a heart. Your brother is still young. I think he should focus on his studies for now. You can continue to be in charge of company matters for the time being. He patted my hand, not forgetting to sow discord. In our past lives, Qin Shuang and I had fought tooth and nail over who would run the company. Looking back now, we were manipulated at every turn by our scumbag dad. HMPH. Anyway, I'm not acknowledging him as my brother. Qin Shuang spat out hatefully and stormed off. After she left, I offered a few more insincere words of comfort to my scumbag dad, finally managing to settle the matter of Qin Yi moving back home. Our scumbag dad was forced to accept the task of bringing his precious son home within a week. Is the old man gone? As soon as I went upstairs, I saw Qin Shuang leaning against the railing on the 3rd floor. He said he has to work overtime at the company. Ha, overtime, my foot. He can't wait to go see his illegitimate son and his little family of 3, right? I raised an eyebrow. In our past life, I fought her for 3 years. She was just a bit hot-tempered and proud. I'd never seen such pure disgust from her before. Qin Shuang kicked the railing in frustration. He'd better bring that kid home soon. I can't wait to make him watch while I destroy everything he cares about. I smiled without speaking. Qin Shuang had already voiced everything I was thinking. I couldn't find any other words. It wasn't like I was going to bond with my former nemesis by trash-talking our scumbag dad and his precious son, right? Tisk. Thinking about it, it was still unbelievable. How did this happen? How did we end up being reborn together? Qin Shuang. What? She looked at me impatiently, probably exhausted and on edge. This was so different from the person who fought me for the family estate in our past life. I paused for a moment and said, in your past life, if you hadn't fought me ... I might have actually been willing to have a sister. But I couldn't finish the sentence. I stopped myself. Qin Shuang's eyes widened abruptly. She pointed at herself. Who do you think wanted to fight you? If it weren't for you people ... She stopped mid-sentence, suddenly stomped her foot, glared at me, and then clicked away in her red high heels. Forget it. I was the only daughter of the Qin family. I didn't have a sister. Hit with that inexplicable glare, listening to Qin Shuang's words, was she implying she was innocent? How had we provoked her? I hesitated for a moment, then decided not to chase after her and ask. The week passed quickly. On the weekend I was still working overtime when Qin Shuang bombarded me with a call. She cut straight to the chase. Qin Yi has moved in, and his mother came too. If you don't get back soon, our home will be stolen. She hung up with a slam. Before the dial tone ended, I thought I heard a sharp female voice on the other end. With no choice, I quickly wrapped up my remaining work and rushed home. Originally, Qin Yi was supposed to come back on Friday. Qin Shuang and I had even arranged for people to keep an eye out. For some reason, that college kid hadn't shown up, and I hadn't thought much of it. Today Qin Shuang didn't go to work. She said she was going to hold the fort at home for the final day. Having fought her for so long, I knew very well how explosive that girl's temper could be. The house was probably a war zone right now. I sped all the way to the gate and saw a taxi parked outside from a distance. The trunk was open, and several suitcases were piled on the ground. That kid had quite a lot of stuff. He really planned to stay long-term. I parked the car to the side with a cold smile. From the entrance came the sound of a fierce argument, a cacophony that ignited my own anger. Walking in, I saw the noise came from a middle-aged woman dressed fashionably, who was currently pointing a sharp manicured nail at Qin Shuang. As for Qin Shuang, who should have been trading insults with her, she was as steady as a mountain. For every 10 sentences the woman threw at her, Qin Shuang would blast back with one. The dog's bark is ugly. What's going on? I walked over and stood beside Qin Shuang, giving her a once-over. Good, no injuries. It hadn't come to blows yet. Some dogs are trying to get into our house. Qin Shuang had a sharp tongue. I'd experienced it before, but when it wasn't directed at me, I found it quite amusing. I pretended to look around in surprise. Oh, you got a dog? Yeah, we definitely can't let it inside. So dirty. Qin Shuang burst out laughing. It's pretty dirty. Good thing you're back. You're the eldest sister. How about establishing a house rule? No bastards or dogs allowed. We played off each other perfectly, and the woman across from us finally lost it. What do you two mean? The woman shrieked. I finally looked at her properly and said with feigned confusion, Oh, I'm sorry, I just noticed you. And you are. I'd give that performance a 9 out of 10. The 1-point deduction was in case I got too full of myself and threw up later. She's my mother. The boy dragging the luggage had a face bright red and spoke through gritted teeth. Hearing this, I turned to properly look at this brother I'd only seen once. He wore a simple white tracksuit, had a backpack on, and wore a pitiful expression. Quite different from his flashily dressed mother beside him. I nodded, looking him straight in the eyes. Qin Yi? Has the old man, your biological father, explained the situation to you? I'm Qin Yi. The boy's eyes darted away, and he replied somewhat timidly. Sis. After a moment, as if feeling he should say more, he added, Dad said I'll be living here from now on, so I packed my things and came. All right. Your room is ready. Go on in. I motioned for him to grab his things and head inside. Qin Yi's mother, clutching her LV bag, held her head high and strutted forward, about to walk in, when Qin Shuang grabbed the back of her collar and yanked her out. Ah! Another ear-piercing scream. Let go. What are you doing, you lunatic? Can't you see those big characters? No bastards or dogs allowed. Qin Shuang pointed casually to the side. Flanking the door were two vibrant red couplets, ones I put up during the New Year when my mom was still alive. I'd never taken them down. Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to your elder like that? You? You don't deserve that title. Anyway, you're not getting in. Qin Shuang didn't even blink, locking the doorway. The woman redirected her anger at me. I guess I seemed more approachable, or rather, easier to bully in her eyes. She looked at me arrogantly. Qin Yi, I am, after all, your elder. Your father told us to come back, and this is how you treat us. Elder my ass. I just wanted to curse. I glanced at the kid, still frozen in place, and jerked my chin towards him. I remember the old man saying I should bring my brother home. He didn't mention anyone else. That's my son. How am I just anyone else? I'm calling Lao Qin right now. I nodded indifferently. Sure, go ahead. Your son can come in, but you cannot. Qin Shuang and I blocked the doorway, refusing to let his mother in. Qin Yi has Qin family blood flowing in his veins. What relation do you have to the Qin family? That woman was stunned by my question, her mouth opening and closing for a long time without a word coming out. I gave birth to Qin Yi. You gave birth to a bird's egg. Qin Shuang cursed loudly, her face slightly flushed. I figured it was from anger. Her whole body was trembling a little. My mother gave birth to me. Do you think being a mistress makes you right? Knowing he had a third wheel. No, knowing he had a fourth wheel, and still becoming the fourth. If my mother hadn't been indifferent to that person's surname Qin, you wouldn't even have the chance to yap here. That woman was so angry she couldn't speak. She raised her bag to throw it, but Qin Shuang violently intercepted it with one hand, then pushed her back. The fourth wheel didn't hit the ground. Someone caught her from behind. I smiled coldly, watching our scumbag Qin father, who had rushed back at just the right moment. That woman finally had her back up. Her face was streaked with tears as she feebly leaned against our scumbag dad. But I gave birth to a son. He's the one who will inherit the family business in the future. How can girls compare to boys? Has your face been boiled in hot water? It's still on your face now, must be as thick as a city wall. Qin Shuang looked sarcastically at the two of them clinging to each other, reenacting some sappy romantic drama. Qin Yi's face was grim as he stood to the side, unsure of what to do. You shut up. Our scumbag dad helped the woman up, his gaze dark as he looked at me. Qin Yi, what's going on here? Making such an ugly scene. Leaning against the doorframe, I said calmly, I'd also like to ask how one person turned into two. Didn't we say my brother was coming home? Our scumbag dad's body stiffened as he looked at me. Xiao Yi, she is, after all, your elder. Whatever it is, let's talk about it inside first. He was probably barely restraining his temper, his voice deep and heavy, like a massive buildup of gas just waiting to explode and scatter everyone. I looked at him coldly. What kind of elder? Dad, what did she mean by heir? I stood up straight, fixing my gaze on him. Bringing people home is fine, but the position of Mrs. Qin isn't something just anyone can take. Your taste is getting worse and worse. Our scumbag dad and that woman's faces changed instantly. Qin Yi, I am your father. What I do doesn't require your permission. Ha! I gave a sarcastic laugh. I couldn't care less. But as your daughter, let me remind you, Dad, Qin Shuang's mother at least has the ability and qualification to try for the top spot. If you bring this woman home, you're in for a headache. A light cough came from beside me. I turned my head uncomfortably and glanced over. Sure enough, Qin Shuang's ears were bright red as she looked at me. Our scumbag dad remained silent, his face dark. The woman hanging onto him bit her lip and glared at me resentfully. Talk of an heir was just your aunt's nonsense. Nonsense. I glanced at him mockingly. If she dares to mention heir today, tomorrow she'd be trying to run the household, telling me to make way. What would my position as vice president even mean then? Our scumbag dad's face turned ashen. After locking eyes with me for 2 seconds, he said, "What talk is this? Your brother is still young. Besides, what's all this about an heir or not? We're all one family. The company cares about ability." He then turned and beckoned to Qin Yi. "Xiao Yu, take your things and go inside with your sisters first. I'll take your mother back." Qin Yi stood still, stubbornly looking at him. The woman in our scumbag dad's arms looked up upon hearing this, her eyes glistening with tears. "Lao Qin, you're driving me away too? Be good. I'll take you back first." Our scumbag dad's face was ugly as he pushed Qin Yi's mother away. "I struggled to give you a son and you don't care. Now, just because of a few words from those 2 little bitches, you're driving me away. Qin Jun, do you even have a heart?" Qin Yi's mother cursed like a madwoman. "I gave you my all, raised your son for you, and this is how you treat me today. Have you gone crazy enough?" Our scumbag dad, burning with rage, slapped the 4th wheel across the face. He paused for a moment, then dragged her and shoved her into the car he had come back in. Qin Yi immediately ran after them. Qin Shuang laughed, her tone clearly carrying a hint of amusement. "Oh, the kid's leaving too? Since you don't welcome my mother, I won't live here either." Qin Yi turned his head angrily and glared at us. "Huh, such backbone. All of the Qin family children live here. Don't you want to be a Qin family child?" I twirled my keys in my hand, looking like I'd slam the door shut if he actually left. This kid had clearly been well protected by my shameless scumbag dad. He exuded that stubbornness of someone who'd never faced the harsh realities of life. He hesitated, stopped in his tracks and watched the car disappear into the distance. After a while, he came back on his own, carrying his things. Qin Shuang smiled sarcastically. Looks like he can't bear to give up the inheritance after all. After Qin Yi moved in, our scumbag dad still rarely came home once a week. I guessed he probably had more than just 4th wheel outside. Sometimes when he stayed over, he'd carry faint, lingering scents of perfume, rarely the same one twice. Qin Yi lived on the 2nd floor. Our scumbag dad truly loved this son. Every day he'd instruct the driver to take him to and from school. After Qin Shuang was brought back, she gradually began to make a name for herself in the company. Many projects, just like in our past life, inexplicably landed in her hands. It was as if someone was deliberately placing them there, and moreover, making sure I found out about it. Sitting in the 1st floor dining room, I was lost in thought for a moment when I heard the sound of the door opening at the entrance. "You've got a lot of projects on your plate lately." Without looking back, I knew it was Qin Shuang coming home. Our scumbag dad was God knows where again today. Soon, she pulled out a chair and sat down beside me. "Mate, what's the matter? Afraid I'll threaten your vice president position?" Qin Shuang looked at me challengingly. I rolled my eyes at her. "Good intentions are wasted on you. Relax. You fought me for so long. Don't you have an accurate read on my abilities yet?" Qin Shuang casually picked up some food with her chopsticks. I smiled and shot back. "Get it straight. It's you who fights with me." Qin Shuang looked at me, seeming to want to say something but stopping. Looked at her quizzically. Again. "What do you want to say?" "I never really wanted to fight you for the family estate. Who cares about that anyway?" She looked at me calmly, but her reddened ears gave her away. I paused for a moment, pointing at her ears. "Are you some kind of Sunda creature or what?" In an instant, Qin Shuang's face turned bright red, and she looked about to explode. Suddenly, a faint noise came from the stairs. I quickly glanced towards the upstairs, signaling her, and changed the subject. "That project in Sea City, you'd better stay away from it." She let out a breath and rolled her eyes at me wildly, instantly getting back into character. Don't tell me, Qin Yi, you've been getting cold feet lately. That Sea City area borders the economic hub. If we really secure it, anything we do there is pure profit. What do you mean by telling me to keep my hands off? Qin Shuang slapped her chopsticks down on the table with a crack, launching into a rapid-fire tirade. I cleared my throat. How long have you been back at the company? And you're already getting cocky. You have so many projects on your plate already. Why do you have to stick your nose into mine? Seeing that we couldn't continue the meal, I simply raised my hand to signal the housekeeper and pointed at 2 dishes. Send some of that up to the one in the room. He's been cooped up in there all day on his day off. Don't let him actually starve to death in my house, that would be bad luck. I rubbed my forehead, my peripheral vision catching a shadow on the stairs, now clearly visible. Fighting with Qin Shuang for so long in our past life wasn't as exhausting as these past few days. As for the one upstairs, I didn't know if he was truly naive, or if our scumbag dad had already coached him. Qin Yu still went to school as usual, seemingly completely uninterested in company matters. This project, initially in my hands, was indeed pure profit. Light footsteps sounded on the stairs. I sat up straighter. Finally couldn't resist coming down. Qin Shuang and I exchanged a glance, both of us perking up. That subsidiary over in Sea City was originally meant for me to take over. You've already got 7 or 8 projects in hand, and you want to swallow Sea City too? Qin Shuang, aren't you afraid your appetite is too big and you'll burst? Qin Shuang winked at me, but her words didn't let up. Humph. Even if that project only nets 20 million, or even 200 million, I can handle it. The question is you. Haven't you been getting beaten down by those old farts on the board lately? Qin Shuang let out a sarcastic laugh. Maybe you should step aside and make way for someone more capable. The vice president position should go to someone with real ability. Ha! Step aside for whom? You're even worse than Qin Yu. At least he knows not to touch what isn't his. If you don't have the brains, you might as well leave the company sooner rather than later. A cough came from the side. I turned my head to see Qin Yu standing awkwardly in the living room, holding a tray. Oh, the young master deigns to come downstairs. Finished your confinement? Qin Shuang's spearhead immediately pointed at Qin Yu. I pursed my lips, barely managing to keep a straight face. Qin Yu's face reddened slightly, but he held back and didn't say anything, simply pulling out a chair and sitting beside me, probably figuring I seemed easier to get along with than Qin Shuang, who was constantly sarcastic towards him. I just heard you discussing work. Is that project in Sea City very difficult? None of your business. You want to get involved too? Qin Shuang unhappily picked up her bowl and moved to sit opposite me. Difficult or not, what business is it of yours? My university major was finance and management. These past few days I've been overhearing eldest sister and second sister discussing projects. I happen to need an internship soon. Eldest sister, could I possibly learn by following you two? Qin Yu's eyes sparkled with anticipation and ambition. He hadn't yet learned to hide it. I pretended to hesitate, then said, that Sea City project is a big one. One move affects the whole game. Unless you're a company insider, you probably can't participate. Oh, I see. Qin Yu looked a bit disappointed. He was silent for a moment. Then suddenly his eyes lit up. Could I intern at the company then? That way I could participate in projects with my sisters. I thought for a moment, then reluctantly nodded. That could work. It's almost your break anyway, and you are a child of the Qin family after all. You'll need to be involved eventually. But this will need Dad's approval. That very night, Qin Yu went to the study and talked with our scumbag dad for a long time. I woke up in the middle of the night to get a drink of water, and saw our scumbag dad coming out of the study downstairs, his expression very dark. I slowly walked back into my room with my water glass. Hey, a son really is different. One phone call and he dragged our scumbag dad back from his comfort zone. The next morning, I got ready and went downstairs. Our scumbag dad and his beloved son were sitting together in the dining room, having a heartfelt father-son moment. Qin Shuang, with a cold face, was sitting on the living room sofa, drinking a carton of milk. Our eyes met. She quirked her lips, quickly flashed me a peace sign, then casually looked away. I knew then that our plan had succeeded. Dad. I stepped into the dining room and had just sat down when I saw our scumbag dad put down his chopsticks and look at me. Zhou Yi, You're primarily in charge of the Sea City project now, right? That's right. What's up? Our scumbag dad nodded, then spoke as if instructing a subordinate. Your brother's break is coming up soon. This is a rare internship opportunity. Have him shadow you on this project. I stared into our scumbag dad's eyes until he frowned, on the verge of slamming the table, before I looked away and focused on the tomato fish slice congee in front of me. Fine. Sooner or later, the fish was destined to become someone else's meal. After that, I took Qin Yi to the company with me every single day. I even let him sit in and take notes during board meetings, without any attempt at discretion. Our scumbag dad was extremely satisfied with this. He confidently delegated authority to Qin Yi, giving him the confidence to participate in the project. I sat by the window, gazing at the late autumn scenery. Qin Shuang sat on the other side, lounging lazily. Qin Yi can't back out of this project now, even if he wanted to. Eldest sister, your methods are truly impressive. Good thing we're working together now, or I'd be terrified. Despite her words, I couldn't detect a single shred of fear on her beaming face. When you do something, you have to root it out completely. Otherwise, like you, it'll just keep coming back and I don't need another headache. Qin Shuang's temper had really mellowed. She didn't even argue with me after 3 sentences. The other day, when you said my mother had the qualifications ... Qin Shuang seemed to find it hard to speak, nervously kneading the cushion in her hands. I understood immediately and felt a bit awkward too. That day was also the first time I'd mentioned her mother. Subconsciously, I'd felt that if it were her mother, maybe I could have accepted it. Honestly, if you think about it, Qin Shuang's mother was tricked into bed by Qin Jun. She was forced into being a mistress. After she learned the truth, she never appeared again, until Qin Shuang was brought home. I'd met her once when I was little. She was indeed a good woman, cultured, gentle and virtuous. So much better than Qin Yi's mother. Auntie was a victim too. The only one to blame is Qin Jun, who can't control himself. I sighed, watching Qin Shuang's eyes redden and glisten. Thank you. Qin Shuang turned her head away to avoid my gaze, looking out the window as she whispered, "This is enough." It was then I realized that maybe Qin Shuang had never really wanted to fight me for the family estate. This girl was just using a clumsy method to seek some form of recognition. The sun gradually set, its remaining rays spilling into the room. Qin Shuang finally snapped out of it and looked at me. But I think we might need to turn up the heat. It would be best if he takes the project and runs off to Sea City to sign it himself. If I remember correctly, that document is coming down soon. Those developers have been desperate to offload it lately. I'm afraid if news gets out, it'll be too late. The Sea City project in our past life was actually targeted by another company. But that project got halted midway when the authorities suddenly issued a document completely stopping all activities. The company that invested there at the time was caught off guard. They had sunk almost all their liquid capital into it, and lost everything. In this life, Qin Shuang and I secured it first thing. Our daily half-truth, half-act arguments about work at home were all to lure Qin Yi into being the fall guy. Thankfully, Qin Yi lived up to expectations and took the bait. You're right. We do need to turn up the heat. Otherwise, we might get burned ourselves. Over the next few days, Qin Shuang and I got busy. I started subtly involving Qin Yi in more core matters. Some of the project's major collaborations also progressed smoothly under our management. Our scumbag dad frequently came to talk to me, trying to bond father-daughter style. But between the lines, he was probing my attitude towards Qin Yi's increasingly smooth rise in the company. Dad, the company belongs to the Qin family, not just to me. Now that my brother is doing so well, why would I be unhappy? I quickly made my stance clear, and didn't hesitate to casually praise my overly enthusiastic, convenient brother. Our scumbag dad was quite satisfied, but he wasn't completely blinded. Although he couldn't possibly know the ins and outs of this project, he was still vigilant enough to hint that I didn't need to pave the way for Qin Yi at every turn. Okay, I smiled. But my brother has been so diligent lately. I can't just suddenly stop him. That would be too discouraging. The Sea City project is big and far from headquarters. I can't keep an eye on it all the time. You need to be careful. Our scumbag dad was busy with work during the day, and busy with his affairs at night. He truly couldn't monitor it constantly. I accepted my orders and headed to Sea City. The next day, as I was leaving the C-City branch office, someone called out to me. I turned to look and was slightly surprised. Aunt Fang? Aunt Fang was a friend of my mother's. When I was little, she often came to our house. After my mother passed, I rarely saw her. It really is Zhao Yi. I thought I might have mistaken you. Haven't seen you in months. Aunt Fang's face was full of emotion. Even though we were in the same city, unless by design, you might not run into someone for 3 months. A lifetime even, let alone accidentally. I smiled softly. Ever since joining the company, I've been getting busier and busier. I haven't even had a chance to properly visit you, Aunt Fang. Aunt Fang had always been gentle-tempered, having been doted on her whole life first by her family, then by her husband and son. She immediately felt a pang of sympathy upon hearing this. She grabbed my hand and insisted we spend some quality time together. By the time we were sitting in the restaurant, we'd already moved on to discussing recent events in my family. She looked quite angry. Her beautiful willow leaf eyebrows furrowed. She kept gently patting my hand, her eyes full of concern. I never liked your mother staying with that Mr. Qin. After she passed, I didn't even pay enough attention to how you were doing. You've been through so much lately. It's okay, really. I've been managing all right lately. But Aunt Fang, could I ask you for a favor? I hesitated for a moment, then told her about my and Qin Shuang's plan. She immediately nodded in agreement. I breathed a sigh of relief, though I felt a twinge of guilt. In the end, I was still using people's hearts and manipulating them. Feeling lighter, I returned home. Qin Shuang wasn't back yet, probably still busy. Her enthusiasm for the company was no less than Qin Chenyu's. Not many days after this, Qin Chenyu was practically living at the company. He no longer trailed behind me constantly. Often, before I could even speak, he'd already gone ahead to schmooze with the shareholders. At the company, he competed for everything. Qin Shuang and I let him have it. Qin Shuang was overjoyed and asked me what I'd done to suddenly make Qin Chenyu so motivated. He got scared by his mother's words. The other day, I deliberately went to C-City to accidentally run into Aunt Fang, who was vacationing there. I asked her to help by befriending Qin Chenyu's mother during a mahjong game, become good friends with her, and casually mention that if Qin Chenyu didn't start working harder, Qin Shuang and I would end up dividing all the Qin family assets between us. Qin Chenyu's mother cared about 2 things above all else: the title of Mrs. Qin and the Qin family fortune. With Aunt Fang, a wealthy, respectable wife, whispering in her ear, Qin Chenyu's mother couldn't even focus on mahjong anymore. She'd probably been pressuring Qin Chenyu about it all week. Sure enough, this week Qin Chenyu's work efficiency increased at least 10-fold. Thanks to Qin Chenyu's efforts, the C-City project secured its first collaboration, generating a net profit of 3 million for the company. At the board meeting, Qin Shuang and I sat silently at the lower end. Our scumbag dad was grinning from ear to ear, and the shareholders were also praising Qin Chenyu, each in their own way. Truly a fearless leader breeds no coward son. President Qin, your heir has arrived. As soon as these words were spoken, the meeting room fell silent. Seeing me staring expressionlessly at him, the man awkwardly shut his mouth. The meeting ended quickly. Back home, our scumbag dad was in high spirits at the dinner table, even drinking wine. He clapped Qin Chenyu on the shoulder and laughed heartily. Good, worthy of being my son, Qin Jin. Not bad at all. You've got real skill. He took a sip of his wine and smiled at Qin Shuang and me. Your little brother is truly talented. Zhao Yi, you're the eldest. Guide your brother well. I obediently nodded, glancing at the ecstatic Qin Chenyu. Initially, I thought the C-City project was too big, and even kept Qin Shuang away from it. Who would have thought that as soon as my brother came along, he'd secure the first project? Truly talented. A mere 3 million. Dad, are you kidding me? You call that talent? Qin Shuang snorted derisively, playing her role as the bad cop perfectly, her contemptuous gaze unflinchingly fixed on Qin Chenyu. This is just the beginning. I really don't believe he has what it takes to completely nail the C-City project. Second sister is right. It's just the beginning. Qin Chenyu's face was a mask of discomfort. He took a few bites of food to compose himself before saying with a forced smile, I owe a lot to eldest sister and second sister for their guidance during this time. On my own, I definitely couldn't have done it. The credit really should go to eldest sister and second sister. Exactly. Not arrogant, not impatient. Don't mind your second sister's words. Study hard and follow in the company from now on. In the future ... Our scumbag dad suddenly paused, looking at Qin Shuang and me. In the future, you can help your eldest and second sisters manage the company. Qin Shuang laughed coldly beside him. Suppressing the discomfort inside, I squeezed my chopsticks. Well, that depended on whether he'd still have the ability to manage anything. I forced a smile. Dad's right. With a bit more training, the company could be safely handed over to my brother. After all, Qin Shuang and I will eventually marry, and have to rely heavily on our brother in the future. Flattered by my apparent goodwill, Qin Yi quickly waved his hands. Our scumbag dad also gave me a surprised look. He probably hadn't expected me to say something like, marry, implying I'd willingly hand over the company. He stared at me for a few moments before finally nodding with satisfaction. Zhao Yi is increasingly taking on the role of the eldest sister. She certainly is taking on the role of the eldest sister. Qin Shuang turned to look at me, and subtly stuck out her tongue. But you getting married is your business. I'm not getting married. Don't drag me into it. If you don't want to manage the company, that's perfect, I'll manage it myself. Our scumbag dad's face darkened. I was laughing inside. Watching Qin Shuang get under people's skin was truly entertaining. I laughed and coughed a couple of times. Well, that might disappoint you. Then, looking at the ugly expressions on the father and son across from me, I added with even more sincerity. Dad, don't worry. Even if I marry out, I'll still help. We're all part of the Qin family after all. When the meal ended, Qin Shuang and I exited happily, leaving the father and son sitting in the dining room, their expressions shifting and changing. Probably because of that evening's conversation. Qin Yi and our scumbag dad realized we weren't leaving the company. They had to step up their game. After this, Qin Yi worked even harder to showcase himself, starting to snatch projects at board meetings. Before the Sea City project was even finished, he was frantically eyeing other projects. Any major project Qin Shuang or I touch, he had to grab for himself. Our scumbag dad helped him, ensuring he succeeded. My office desk was piled high with documents. I slumped wearily into my chair. Qin Shuang, who had followed me in, looked at me with a half-smile. We can crush them completely now. Hearing this, I closed my eyes and sprawled in the chair, my fingers tracing the word Sea City on a document. Let him fall hard right where he rose. You do your part. Qin Shuang whistled softly in response, taking the document from my hand. Got more tricks up your sleeve than when you fought me in our past life, huh? Isn't this exhausting? If you hadn't fought me last time, we might not have ended up in that mess. Who was fighting whom? Too tired to argue, I waved her out. Even if we didn't fight, as long as Qin Yi existed, Qin Shuang and I would never have real peace. We started throwing obstacles in the way of Qin Yi's projects. After all, he was just a fresh-faced kid who'd just entered society. How could he really stand against our combined forces? Soon, the first project Qin Yi was responsible for failed. Our scumbag dad gave an awkward laugh in front of me, saying the boy was young, and to give him another chance to practice. The second and third projects failed in succession. And then, just yesterday, multiple documents were issued concerning railway construction and freight transport in Eastern Sea City. The investment in Eastern Sea City, for which Qin Yi had full responsibility, collapsed, causing serious losses for the company. The shareholders had had enough and raised a ruckus. At the shareholders' meeting, they demanded Qin Yi be kicked out of the company. The projects Qin Yi has handled lately have indeed been awful. I began slowly, sweeping my gaze across the meeting room. Just a short while ago, everyone present had been praising President Qin for having such a good son. But when the company's profits took a hit, affecting their own interests, those praises vanished into thin air. Who cared whose son he was anymore? President Qin, we understand your desire to nurture your son. But the company's revenue has been plummeting lately. Those projects we invested in didn't even make a ripple. I don't think this is sustainable. We can't let him use the company as his personal training ground. Many of us have families to support. Exactly. President Qin, maybe you should just let your son go home. Our scumbag dad, unable to counter the chorus of dissent, ended the meeting abruptly with a dark expression. Qin Shuang and I followed him into his office. A few documents came flying towards me. I quickly dodged. Qin Yi, is this how you guide your brother? Qin Shuang, entering behind me, had the documents land at her feet. She immediately launched into a tirade at our scumbag dad. What are you so angry about? You wanted to prop up your precious son. Whose fault is it that your wonderful son is a pile of mud that won't stick to the wall? You shut up. Is that any way to talk to your father? Our scumbag dad, his face dark as thunder, strode over to Qin Shuang and raised his hand as if to strike her. I quickly stepped over and pulled Qin Shuang away. Pathetic. When things go wrong, this father's first instinct is to hit his daughters. Dad, I paused, signaling Qin Shuang to go outside first. I gave her a look that said, leave it to me. I know you want to help Qin Yi. He's my brother, and I don't want things to get too ugly either. You have a way? Our scumbag dad, embarrassed at having missed hitting Qin Shuang, asked. It's not a big deal. Those shareholders are just upset because they feel they're making less money lately. Shed a little blood to appease them, and that'll shut them up, won't it? Our scumbag dad paced back and forth in the room. After a moment, he waved his hand, dismissing me. I'll think about it. That thinking of our scumbag dad lasted only one night. The very next day, he voluntarily gave up a portion of his shares. The shares he released were naturally acquired by Qin Shuang and me through back-channel purchases. A week later, I called a shareholders' meeting. Our scumbag dad rushed in, looking travel-worn. I sat waiting in my chair, watching him calmly. Dad, you're here. Please, have a seat. The head seat was still left for him. The shareholders looked at me with questioning eyes. I cleared my throat and distributed documents listing all of Qin Yi's various work-related blunders to the shareholders present, including, of course, the belated Qin Jin. In your hands is a summary of the work performance of our company's intern, Qin Yi, during his employment. Given his sensitive identity, I've called this sudden shareholders meeting today, hoping everyone here can serve as witnesses. Considering this intern's recent lack of competence and the huge losses he has caused the company, I have decided to terminate all projects under Qin Yi's responsibility and dismiss this employee. Our scumbag dad's hands trembled with rage as he gripped the documents tightly, as if trying to bore holes in my face with his glare. What is the meaning of this? Qin Yi, what exactly are you trying to do? I glanced at Qin Shuang, who gave me a slight nod. I tapped the table, drawing the shareholders' attention. President Qin, I believe you are no longer fit to hold this position. The shareholders, discussing Qin Yi's situation, looked at me in shock. Our scumbag dad just furrowed his brow, as if watching a child throw an unreasonable tantrum. Are you joking? Qin Yi, I am your father. How could it be a joke, President Qin? You'd better step down voluntarily, or your exit might get very ugly. I spoke slowly, my words clearly igniting our scumbag dad's fury. Step down? What right do you have to say that? Our scumbag dad's natural air of authority was still impressive. At his words, the surrounding shareholders snapped out of it and began to advise. Vice President Qin, whatever issues you have with President Qin, discuss them calmly. We'll take our leave now. Zhao Yi, don't be like this. Don't have a tantrum with your father. Yes, the two of you need to communicate properly. Double quotes. Uncles, I think it's better if you all stay. I swept my gaze over them calmly and pulled another stack of documents from my bag. Perhaps you should look at these first. After a long, heavy silence, the shareholders put down the documents and cautiously turned their eyes towards our scumbag dad. Expressions awkward. Our scumbag dad didn't have the documents and was bewildered by the situation, but that didn't stop him from trying to pressure me. You're still too young and impulsive, Zhao Yi. You only hold 20% of the shares. You don't have decision-making authority. We're father and daughter. Whatever you have to say, you can come home and tell me. Don't make an ugly scene in front of these uncles. The meeting room was dead silent. I said nothing, just wanted to see how Qin Jin would perform in front of these shareholders. Suddenly, Qin Shuang stood up, opened the door, and beckoned someone inside. Then she turned back to look at Qin Jin and said, Who says? She only has 20%. Don't I have 15% right here? Besides, have you forgotten the 8% you gave up just a few days ago? Qin Shuang watched for the half-smile, as our scumbag dad's face changed color instantly. She now holds 43%. She's the single largest shareholder in the entire group. Is that enough qualification to make a decision? As she finished speaking, before our scumbag dad could react, several uniformed police officers walked through the door. They scanned the room, their eyes landing on Qin Yi. Qin Yi? You've been reported for tax evasion. Come with us. Our scumbag dad stood up, his face pale, but still trying to maintain his composure. Officers, is there some mistake? How could I possibly ... His eyes suddenly widened as he turned to me in disbelief. Qin Yi? It was you. Two officers stepped forward to restrain him as he tried to move towards me. He immediately began to struggle, his forced calm shattering completely. Qin Yi, I am your father. Have you lost your mind? What are you trying to do? I'm your dad. How could you do something like this? Frame your own father? President Qin, whether it's a frame-up or not, I trust the police will investigate thoroughly. I didn't say a word. Qin Shuang, watching like it was a show, chimed in at the perfect moment. Qin Jun then turned his hateful glare towards Qin Shuang. You two plotted against me, you bitches. I never should have brought you back in the first place. He kept cursing Qin Shuang and me until the officers nodded to us and led him away. Shouts fading into the distance. His accusations still echoed in my ears. I had sent my own father to prison, and I had avenged my own murder. Qin Shuang and I returned home, silently leaning against the living room sofa. Neither of us spoke. Footsteps sounded on the stairs. I looked up to see Qin Yi coming down, his face full of anger. You too will get what's coming to you. Yeah, sure. You'd better get out of here right now, or I'll make sure you get what's coming to you right this instant. Faced with this little brat, I couldn't even muster the energy. I just wanted him gone. Qin Yi, unless you want to end up in prison like Qin Jin, you need to disappear right now, this instant, and never set foot here again. I went to the second floor, haphazardly stuffed his suitcase with the things he'd brought, then quickly came back down and threw it and him out the door. You crazy woman! What are you doing? He screamed, lunging out to grab his suitcase. Qin Shuang, in a rare moment of cooperation, kicked the door shut. His muffled curses continued from outside. Qin Shuang and I stood inside, staring at each other. Suddenly we both burst out laughing, uncontrollably, collapsing onto the sofa in a heap of giggles. After a long while, I let out a long sigh, staring at the ceiling. Serves him right. Qin Shuang turned to look at me, her eyes crinkling with laughter. He truly deserved it. If our scumbag dad was going to try to kill us, he should have known we'd fight back. The police called, and after clarifying some details, they asked us to come to the station to sign some papers and handle the follow-up. As I drove Qin Shuang to the police station, I noticed two disheveled people standing in a cordon-off area nearby. I glanced over. They sensed my gaze and immediately glared back fiercely. Qin Yi and his mom. Qin Shuang spotted them too, raising an eyebrow and muttering quietly. They got off easy. The police just seized the house they were living in. It was the house bought with our scumbag dad's laundered money. Our scumbag dad was involved in a huge sum. The case was serious. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison. When the judge's gavel came down, my heart, which had been unsettled for 2 lifetimes, finally felt at peace. Walking out of the courthouse, Qin Shuang smiled at me. Sis. I was stunned, suddenly feeling dazed. In both of my lives, this was the first time Qin Shuang had ever called me sis so cleanly and sincerely. The company's yours now. Don't follow in his footsteps. What about you? I looked at her, my emotions mixed. After all this work, you're just letting go? She stood quietly beside me, her gaze fixed on a police car in the distance. I want to go see my mom. She deserves a new life. Tax evasion meant the company had to deal with the consequences. I used company funds to pay the back taxes, keeping the company afloat. I successfully took over as president. After a week of non-stop work, I finally had a moment to breathe. Returning home, the sudden quiet of the house felt strange. I sat alone in the dining room, eating. After a while, I sighed and picked up the phone. When are you coming back to work? Ear-shattering music blared from the other end of the line. After a moment, it finally quieted down. Qin Shuang's voice, laced with laughter, came through the phone. Good sister, I died too horribly in our past life. You wouldn't have the heart to exploit me, would you? I just want to have fun now. You work hard and just remember to transfer my dividends on time every year. Then why did you fight me tooth and nail in our past life? I didn't know whether to be angry or amused. So I'm not being stupid in this life. That's it. Love you, sis. The revival of the Qin Corporation is in your hands. The line went dead with a beep beep beep. I was so mad I could hit someone. She'd beaten me to it. I wanted to have fun too. Today is the 29th of Lunar New Year. Everyone at the company has packed up and gone home for the holidays. I went to the bank in person to transfer this year's dividends to Qin Shuang. After half a year of running the company, we'd made a tidy profit. On my way to make the transfer, I saw her travel vlog and was so annoyed I could grind my teeth. She sure knew how to enjoy herself, leaving me alone to be the workhorse at the company. But I had to give her what was hers. Our revolutionary friendship couldn't be broken. With my mother gone and our scumbag dad in prison, Qin Shuang was my only remaining family. As I left the bank, I got a call from the prison. Our scumbag dad was asking to see me. I had nothing planned for the day, and I was curious what trick he was trying to pull, so I decided to go. He'd been sentenced to 7 years for tax evasion and involvement in a grey industry chain. On the day of the sentencing, Qin Shuang and I made a special trip just to watch him get sent to prison. In our past lives, just because we were daughters, he used us as tools and had us killed. Now that we'd avenged ourselves, we could finally let it go. I saw him soon enough. When he was young, our scumbag dad was handsome. Otherwise my mother wouldn't have fallen for him. After 6 months in prison, he was thin as a rail, his hair mostly grey. But I felt nothing. He deserved every bit of it. Zhao Yi, Dad was wrong, so wrong. Please, find a way to get me out of here. None of the lawyers are willing to help me now. Dad is begging you. Find me a good lawyer. Dad will make it up to you, I promise. As soon as he saw me, he started crying and pleading, putting on a perfect show of the loving father. But it only disgusted me. There was a time I loved this father, even considered him my only support after my mother died. And what did he give me? Less than a month after my mother's death, he brought home his illegitimate daughter. And because of that son he'd hidden away, he had me killed. I went through all the trouble of putting you in here, and you want me to get you out? Do you think I'm an idiot? I looked at him calmly, unable to muster a single shred of pity. Whatever father-daughter bond we might have had vanished the moment I died in my past life. When he realized his pleas were useless, his demeanor changed completely. Qin Yi, you demon. Why do you hate me so much? I spoiled you since you were a child. Gave you everything you wanted. What more could you possibly want? What have I, as your father, ever done to wrong you? He glared at me, twisted with rage. If not for the glass separating us, he would have tried to kill me again. But he'd never get the chance. I met his eyes and said, word by word, weren't you the one who planned to have me killed? I went easy on you. I just sent you to prison. But you wanted to kill me, your own daughter. Shock flashed across his face. Then he crumpled, defeated, slumping onto the bench, unable to process what he'd just heard. I stood up and left. This would probably be the last time I ever saw him. After this, I no longer had a father. I missed the home I had as a child, but I could never go back. Leaving the prison, I hailed a taxi to go back to my place. Looking at the thousands of lights in the windows along the street, I just felt incredibly lonely. I had no home. On New Year's Eve, I got a call from Qin Shuang. I already sent you your New Year's money. Not enough to spend? Our conversations still weren't very close. That old edge of rivalry lingered. She made an impatient TSK sound. Do you think I'm that shallow? After 6 months of traveling across the country, I'm practically transcendent, okay? I could imagine her rolling her eyes. I couldn't help but smile. Well, maybe you can come hold down the fort at the company next year. And I'll go get transcendent too. No way. Only you can handle such a difficult task. She refused without a second thought. Selfish. After a bit more playful banter, she finally got to the point. My mom wants you to come over for New Year's dinner. She says you look too pathetic all alone. No thanks. You and your aunt enjoy the New Year together. I refused. They were mother and daughter, a family. Me going would be weird. Besides, her mother was still our scumbag dad's mistress. Going would feel like a betrayal of my own mother. Qin Shuang had mentioned before that her mother was tricked into being a mistress. She only found out our scumbag dad was already married after Qin Yi was born. She tried to leave, but she was too soft-hearted and couldn't break free. It wasn't until Qin Yi grew up and our scumbag dad got his fourth wheel that she finally left for good. But regardless of the reason, what happened still wronged my mother. I couldn't be selfish and forgive them on her behalf. Qin Yi probably guessed what I was thinking. She didn't push it, just wished me a happy new year, and hung up. I got up and went to the kitchen to cook myself some tangyan. This New Year's dinner was simple, but it was truly all I wanted. I just hoped that everyone I met for the rest of my life could be happy and whole with their families. The following spring, I heard from Qin Yi. Qin Yi's mother had died. That woman who had clamored so loudly to get through the Qin family's front door died in a car accident. At the end of the year, I got another call from the prison. Qin Yi had stomach cancer. Less than 2 months later, he was gone. Qin Yi handled his funeral arrangements. I watched from a distance. When Qin Yi died, all my hatred finally faded. In his life, he had ruined 3 women and 3 children. In the end, he lost his wife. His children were scattered, and his family was destroyed. With his death, all these grievances and grudges came to an end.